My name is Martha Maurer with KTAR News and KTAR.com. This is a special series to understand the current state of immigration enforcement in Arizona. I sat down with the director of the Field Office Division here in Phoenix of ICE to understand everything from the check-in process to deportation to raids and many more topics. This is part 3 of our special immigration series. We take a closer look at the human aspect, how officers deal with doing their jobs, deporting people, separating families while enforcing immigration law. We also take a look at how hard has it been for Immigration and Customs Enforcement to do their job under the new administration. Deportation. We know that there's an effect that goes beyond removing an individual from the country. There are families that end up separated. A lot of times we know stories of where immigrants have lived here for decades and have had children who are then U.S. citizens. You mentioned that at some stage in this process, they perhaps are given time to get their affairs in order. Is there a time when ICE provides any help to help those transitions, especially when you have, say, families that are here legally and part of their family has to be removed from this country? Do you offer any assistance?
Absolutely. We offer the coordination of, well, one, if a person has what you described, a family, whether they're in the country legally or not, sometimes they do have U.S. citizens. So we offer the information at a time that they're going to be removed on this date. I can give you a specific example that I've coordinated personally with the Mexican consulate when I was operating in San Antonio. We had arrested a family group that had it was a wife, a husband, a child of Mexican nationality, but they also had a child of a U.S. citizen. They chose to place the care of that U.S. citizen with their brother. We told them that we were going to be removing them the same day to Mexico, and gave them the time. The brother actually went to Mexico at the same time. We repatriated them to Mexico, and they were reunited with their U.S. citizen children. So they chose to reunite in Mexico, even though they have U.S. citizen children. So that's a choice of individuals, whether they want to leave their U.S. citizen children in the United States, or we will offer every assistance we can, coordinating with the country's consulate officers, the repatriation times, to try to make them reunited as fast as possible and at the exact time of repatriation. And we have done so successfully many, many times.
Speaking to members of the community, this is one of those subjects that is heartfelt to them, the separation of families. When we talk about immigration officers, they themselves are members of this community. One could assume that it could be hard for them as well when doing their job. Does ICE offer any counseling or any help, proper training? Talk about the process of helping immigration officers do their jobs to the best of their ability, but knowing that there is that emotional connection when a person who does not want to leave this country has to leave.
Absolutely. It's covered in our basic training. We also have peer support groups, but we're also exactly empathetic and sympathetic to these cases, and when there's children involved or children witnessing a parent being arrested. And ICE takes into consideration that and allows family members to say goodbye and embrace, and sometimes, if deemed necessary, won't even handcuff an individual in front of their children, so the children doesn't have that experience. But it depends on the individual and if they're compliant or not at the scene, and it's an officer's decision. But we do take that into consideration and allow that kind of goodbye to happen. And of course, if they're in an ICE facility, the families, the children, they could come visit at any time while they're in ICE locations. They can also call and talk to them when they're in ICE facilities as well.
Has your workload in this office increased in recent months? You know, every administration has a different way about going with things. Have you found yourself dealing with more cases under the new administration?
I would say we're at a steady flow, being on the southwest border. Any of the 4 states are always busy, so there's not necessarily an increase. We may have shown an increase in arrests out on the street, only because we're providing more resources to do that type of thing. It's important to know in Arizona that the people that we removed this fiscal year, 70% of them are been convicted of a crime. So here in the United States, and that is our focus, focusing on individuals who are the biggest threat to public safety.
But knowing that there is a possibility for those without criminal records to also be deported, do you expect your workload to increase? And are you hiring? Are you doing anything to be able to deal with that workload?
Well, that's all budget driven. So I know we received funds to hire another 100 officers for the rest of this fiscal year. Outlying years will determine if Congress gives us money to hire more ICE officers. So the reality is that we've removed people without criminal convictions the entire time I've been doing this, and I've been doing this for 20 plus years.
It's not new.
So it's not new. It's definitely not new. What remains the same is these people that have been removed are in violation of federal immigration law, and most times they've been ordered removed by an immigration judge.
Why do you think we're hearing more of it? It's a hot topic right now.
It's always been very controversial. I mean, there's groups out there that don't want any one person deported to anywhere, and they have that right to free speech and to not like it and protest out in front of our building, as they often do, and they have that right. And some people also think that by bringing the cases to the media and getting it out there, that maybe ICE won't deport this person because it's making news. And the reality is, ICE is just enforcing the immigration judge's order, that ICE didn't necessarily make the decision to remove the person, that a process has taken place, a due process that's generally over several years and has triggers for appeals, and generally those cases have gone through fruition of the case, and now we're at the end stage.
So should Arizona illegal immigrants undocumented who live in Arizona, should they fear and look over their shoulder that there can be any time when they can be deported?
I think anyone entering this country without authorization already comes with that. They already know that if I'm encountered by the police, if I'm locked up, if I'm encountered by ICE, if I go through a Border Patrol checkpoint, that I may be subject to arrest, detention, and removal.
This concludes our special series on immigration, the state of immigration enforcement in Arizona. Be sure to check out KTAR.com for more on this particular story and more dealing with check-ins, deportations, raids, sanctuaries and churches, and so much more. I'm Martha Maurer for KTAR News.